Well, hello and welcome to Court Corner. I'm Ashmit Kumar. Now, the third edition of the India Justice Report has been released, and its findings show that the justice system is beset due to lack of funds. The report is a compilation of data from states and union territories covering the 4 pillars of justice delivery. Those are the police, judiciary, prison, and legal aid. Now, as per this report, Karnataka emerges as the top performer among 18 large states in terms of justice delivery, followed by Tamil Nadu and Telangana. Uttar Pradesh is ranked the lowest among these states. Karnataka was also the only state to meet the SC, ST and OBC quota. This while none of the other states and union territories met quota for women. The report also goes on to highlight vacancy among High Court judges. It is set to be at 30%. Meanwhile, more than 33,000 cases are currently pending with the State Human Rights Commission as of March 2021. To discuss this report and, of course, what the takeaways could mean in terms of the justice delivery system, I'm now joined by the authors of the report, Maja Daruwala, Chief Editor of the India Justice Report, as well as Valay Singh. He's the project lead of the India Justice Report. Ms. Daruwala, Mr. Singh, thank you so much for joining us. Ms. Daruwala, let me come to you first. This report comes 24 months since the last edition. This, of course, spans the duration of the pandemic. Tell us, as far as justice delivery is concerned, what has changed over the pandemic over the last 24 months?
Well, the good parts are that there's been a lot of energy put into creating technology or infusing technology into the justice system, especially in the court system, and you hear the Chief Justice speaking about that all the time, and that may become more habituated than before. So there's a real push for that. On the other hand, the courts closing down and only listening to emergency cases, etc., means that there's been a lot of pile-up, and the cases have increased. The cases pending has increased. The people who are in jail have increased. 77% of them are under trials. There used to be only 68%.
But Mr. Singh, let me come to you now. Let's dive into the report in terms of the big takeaways. We find that Karnataka is one state that has jumped 14 places. When the last edition came out, it was ranked number 14. This time, this is number 1. Tell us, what has Karnataka done right, and has that presented a model perhaps that some of the other states can look towards?
Oh, thanks for having us, Ashmit. Well, Karnataka is a really good example of how, if governments want, they can identify those low-hanging fruits and fill those deficits. We had the opportunity to meet the Karnataka government right after the first India Justice Report in 2019, and then subsequently again after the second one in 2021 January. What Karnataka has done is massively invest in its human resources at multiple levels. It cut down its High Court vacancy from nearly 50% down to 27%. It maintains the highest share of women among its prison staff, which is again something quite unique, I would say, because prisons are considered almost no-go areas for women because of our own societal attitudes towards what women can and cannot do. Again, the state is quite ahead in terms of deploying CCTVs in its police stations. All police stations in the state have at least one CCTV. It has also increased its budgetary allocations and expenditures on judiciary, on prisons, and so on in other, in legal aid as well. But of course, that doesn't mean that everything is good about Karnataka. And if a state is down in the ranking, doesn't mean that everything about its justice delivery is bad. I do want to point that out.
Now, whenever we hear of vacancies in the courts, it often goes to more headline stories that we hear about the likes of Justice Qureshi or the Saurabh Kirpal case. But these statistics are quite alarming, to put mildly. Total judges, 22% vacancy. High Court judges, the vacancy is at 30%. In your conversations with various states, what has emerged as the main reason behind the high vacancies? Is it a lack of talent? Is it perhaps procedural delays? Is this a more systemic issue? Why do we have such large number of vacancies?
Well, you kind of compile all the reasons right there, Ashmit. It's not one reason for all states. It's a combination of reasons for multiple states and several states. One is, of course, the fiscal outlay towards filling vacancies. I mean, it's not that the justice sector is entirely unique in having vacancies, but they seem to be higher as compared to other government divisions or departments. The main reason seems to be, I think we should, before we even get to vacancy, I would like to draw your attention to the sanction strength of judges itself in the country. With about 22,000 judges, or I mean, roughly, for a population of 1.25 crores, 1.37, 137 crores, whatever the number may be, is that enough? We do have to start asking this question of everyone. Because right now, the caseload per High Court judge on average is more than 7,000 cases. It has come down after COVID, but this is a very big number for anybody to manage. So far as the reasons for vacancies to remain persistent, I would say that let's look at what states have been able to do. So when at the High Court level, at least in one fell swoop, you can actually cut down vacancies, but it's a subordinate judiciary where we need to take it in a very systematic way so that this year-on-year accumulation of vacancies doesn't happen. We need to recruit at a consistent pace, and there we have to focus on having a diverse judiciary and a diverse justice system.
Ms. Daruwala, let me come to you now. As far as the larger issue of budget outlays is concerned, there was a very interesting aspect pointed out in the report that only Delhi and Chandigarh managed to allocate about 1% of the state GDP to justice delivery. The other states fall far short of that figure. The Chief Justice of India more recently has been talking about developing justice delivery as a utility. Just like power, just like electricity, it should be a utility. Does that then require higher spends from individual states? And if yes, then to what levels of state GDP spends are we looking at?
Oh, I couldn't tell you about how much of the GDP that you have to expend. But yes, the present expenditure is very low. And as far as the utility is concerned, I would take it even more importantly as if you look at justice as a primary need like food and education and healthcare, then the thought should be that it should be at every village level available. I'm not saying make a full-fledged court at the village level, but presently you have to go quite a distance, even geographically, before you can get any relief or any information. And people always think about the court or the formal system, but there is so much in terms of counseling, information, help, referrals that you need. You don't always go to a doctor for operations, right? Or emergency health care. You just go because you need the information and that is close by to you.
Valay, let's talk about women in subordinate judiciary. That figure stands at 33%. And just for context, for the benefit of our viewers, that is comparable to the highly famed IT sector. The IT sector boasts of higher than benchmark levels of women participation at around 30 to 35%. Here we have subordinate judiciary women at 33%. Just help us understand what has led to this journey and how do we take it forward from here? Because these levels of women participation tends to fall when you climb up a level higher to the high courts. Why is that?
Well, let me just start by saying that at the district court, the subordinate court level, we've got reservation in several states. So that is one fixed number of women that you will take in the system every year or every time you recruit, whereas there is nothing for the high courts and so on. So that is one way. But I think this number going up simply shows that if it can happen at the district court level, and if we just call it lower judiciary or subordinate judiciary, but it is so important. It's the front line of the justice needs of the population. It's the most important, perhaps, interface that we have. And if we can get women in there, in fact, what we are hearing in some high court in some states is that in a 5-year period, 10-year period, you probably have more women than male judges in the district courts, which is a good thing. I mean, there's nothing to say that a good thing is a bad thing. It's always a good thing. And the same thing can happen in the police, where you've got only 8% women officers. Just 8%. And overall, you've got just about 12% women in the police. How are you going to serve justifiably and the way it should be the needs of half your population. I think judiciary is a good example to say that it can happen here, why not there and there and there.
Right, Ms. Daruwala and Mr. Singh, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective on the India Justice Report. Some interesting takeaways and perhaps lessons for the future as well. I'd like to thank both of our panelists once again for joining us.